You are watching Influence Media, PSI TV, the Netflix of biz brands.
My guest today, I actually have two guests today, guys. And my first guest is Anthony Edwards Jr. He is the CEO of EatOkra Inc. It's an operation that has a mobile app that shares Black-owned food establishments in the USA. Now, EatOkra is trusted nationwide. They have a directory that lists almost 10,000 Black-owned restaurants, bakeries, cafes, food trucks, and bars and wineries across the US. And they now have partnered with major brands like Apple, Uber Eats, Pepsi, Bacardi, and so much more. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Trudy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Have some nice dialogue with you and Kiera.
I'm so excited to have you. My next guest is no stranger to PSI TV, Kiera H. She likes to keep that H mysterious. So Kiera H of Fresh Factory. Kiera is a human capital management strategist, and she is the project manager for the EatOkra app. And I am grilling them today. I am grilling them about how they created a high-performing team using primarily gig or temporary staffing. So here's the deal, guys. I'm going to be transparent. This show today has two goals. Yes, I'm doing a show to share on PSI TV. You know, this is something that needs to happen. The world is now understanding that remote teams is a thing. Ever since COVID, organizations that never did remote work before suddenly realize this is a thing that they're going to have to deal with going forward. And leaders around the world realize how difficult it was to work with a remote team. And these were their employees. Now we're talking about gig workers, temporary workers, which is now a thing. And Kiera's been doing this for a long time. And she pulled it together for EatOkra. So that's why I'm grilling them for two reasons: to share with you, business owners, how you too can scale or get your projects completed using a format like this, or even better, using Kiera's help, but also for my school. So many of you may know I'm a doctoral student, and I have to write a paper on team management, especially a high-performing team. And I'm like, oh, this is not something I totally believe in. I know they exist. I have been on one in my entire 57 years of living, one good team. All the rest were headaches. I do know they exist. And according to Kiera, it happens for her all the time. So here's the thing. I'm going to be pulling information which will be used in my doctoral paper as well. So this show has two purposes. So bear with me, all right? Okay, so Kiera also has a Roku TV channel. Guys, go check that out. Fresh Factory has a television channel on Roku, which we built for her. And that's partly why I'm tapping into Kiera's expertise. It's maybe novel for the rest of us, but it is not novel for Kiera. Kiera, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Anthony, first set of questions for you. Anthony, your mobile app is EatOkra. Now, I happened to download that app this morning, and I was actually pleasantly surprised because I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I found restaurants in Tampa, Florida that I was totally unaware of that existed, right? And I'm originally from Jamaica, and guess what? Jamaican restaurants were there. I was just totally blown away. So you have Jamaican restaurants and other cultural restaurants among your Black-owned restaurants and establishments. Anthony, what prompted you to put this app together?
EatOkra really started as a hobby project. In 2016, my girlfriend, now wife, suggested, why don't you build an app for us to find and support some Black-owned restaurants right here in Brooklyn, which is a new city to both of us. Though she's from the Bronx, Brooklyn is quite a journey if you're taking the train. So they don't go there too much back and forth. Anyways, it was a new city to us, so we really wanted to, know where the best restaurants were, where the best Black-owned spots. And so we started putting together this directory, and, what do you know, like once we put it out in the world, like other people could use it as well and really found value in.
Yes, I would agree. That is, and I think it's really important to recognize that at a time like this, when, Black-owned establishments have been undervalued, underrated, underexposed, that you are providing this very valuable service. So kudos off to you guys. So now the next thing is that I want to ask you, Anthony, is I've personally built mobile apps, and it's a very tech-rich field. It requires multiple skills to pull it together. And you have a beautiful and functional app. Now, I know Kiera is part of that project. You hired Kiera Fresh Factory to deal with that. What's it like working with Kiera?
Man, Kiera and I go back to the military. So
You always tell this story.
I already understand her pedigree. And at a time when EatOkra really started trending and really becoming known, really became like even a lifeline to certain restaurants, I've been told. EatOkra went from having 3,600 restaurants to now receiving 8,000 restaurants, and for us to add to our directory. And that was in 2020. And so Kiera, she's been following along the journey of EatOkra, and she was like, "Yo, you need help?" I said, "Yes, I need help." And she whipped up a team together to knock out those 8,000 restaurants that were submitted to us, because each one takes 10, 15 minutes to do individually. And that's a list I'd still be going through today had I not, relied on other people to really be involved and, trusted them with that data, because it's really like our bread and butter of our business. So, Kiera came in there, we worked it out. I taught her everything. She taught herself how to use the system and started training people, and it's been amazing ever since.
Okay, well, all right. So Kiera, over to you, darling. Now, you're the project manager of this mobile app. How did you accomplish a result of pulling this amazing app together, as Anthony just said, the bread and butter of his business, when you yourself, to my knowledge, cannot build a mobile app?
So, first of all, thank you so much, Anthony, for trusting me. I really appreciate that, because he knows I am not like a classically trained technical person. So specifically, the task that we manage for EatOkra is the data team. And the data team handles the input of those restaurants, the verification of those restaurants to assure that they're Black owned, and to take in the customer service part where you're interacting with people who have responses. If they're interacting with the app and they send in an email, we'll talk back and forth with them as well. So some of it is just having to get the knowledge on your own, having the desire to want to know. So he can teach us so much, right? But then I have to have the desire to want to dig down, to find bugs, to find issues as we're growing, because as a company that's growing at a specific speed, you got to catch things as they're breaking or happening or whatever, and have a good communication line. And one thing about it is that Anthony's going to respond. He says, "Hey, if I have this problem, if you got this problem, let me know, and then I'm going to get right on it so that things can continue to grow." And the technical piece is using the correct tools and going to find what works the best. So we've gone through several iterations of tools that worked at a different time period, but we have to always be pushing the envelope, trying to find out, well, what's next, what technology is coming next down the line. And he's going to do his end, but also I have to do my end also, because it's something that I really want to do well. So I'm doing the research.
So yeah, but this you worked with a team. You talked about this team. Tell us about this team.
So this team is made up of people that I've trained from basic customer service. So they had no knowledge about this app because they didn't know the app existed, right? So I've gotten the training from Anthony. Anthony says, "Hey, this is how it works. Go from there." And
were they Anthony's employees that you were training? Your employees? What kind of people are these?
These are gig workers off the internet. These are like totally third-party individuals who know nothing about any of these things, not tech background, not any specific background, just like, you know, just general workers. People.
That's what Fresh Factory has been doing for a while, correct?
Correct. So for us, it's just more of the people who have different types of skills that we think when put together can create a team that would be effective. There's no two people that are alike, but maybe someone is interested in tech, maybe somebody has offered a virtual assistant offering for their individual skills. Maybe someone just says, I follow directions really well. Maybe someone does data entry really well. And I just put those things together to create a team that can take care of all the needs together. Like, that's the thing about it. It's a dance to try to fit all of the things that you need together in one and make them work and communicate and sing together.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
this is a question for both of you, because honestly, Anthony, for most projects, project managers are notorious, not necessarily to deliver on time, deliver within budget. Tell us about that whole project and how it came together, and working with gig workers. These are not your employees, and you don't have direct control. They're free to do. Gig workers have different responsibilities than employees. Tell us how this all comes together, because in my mind, this doesn't work. In my mind, I don't see it. I'm struggling to see it. I know it theoretically exists, but tell me, this is the practical, this is the real deal. Tell me the honest truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost no different than, having an enterprise company and not knowing every employee at your company. You kind of have to delegate and hold, your leadership in, responsibility, hold their feet to the fire. They've got to be responsible. They've got to report. So we don't do things that are too differently than, what a standard enterprise company would do. We make sure that there's processes in place. We know who is logging in, who's entering what data, so we can always go back and track against a certain employee or one of the gig workers. Even on Kiera's team, there's a leadership structure within their team. So, Kiera's at the top, but she has people that are in charge of QA, and then have a couple, and then are checking the other folks' work too. So there's different processes and steps in place. And Kiera, when we think about leadership, Kiera is doing that work that we've learned from our military skills of really just how to work with different people, how to work with different skill sets, how to work with different characteristics that are better for different situations. And so, a combination of all those things, we've been able to make it work for us, make this structure of how we work together and how she works within her team work for us.
So what I'm hearing is there is structure, there's accountability, there's feedback, there are checks and balances. In other words, it's not necessarily a high trust factor as it is. There is trust, but there is like trust and verify, trust but verify kind of a thing.
For sure. This is something that we've had to build in along the way, because as we mentioned, this didn't exist at first. So a company has to be open enough to be able to take these suggestions on what, if you want a high performance, the performance is based on a metric. What does performance mean? It means a number. It means a something that you have to measure by. Right. So in this case, if he's saying we need X amount of data into our system, then that means you have the number that you're measuring, but how quickly, right? Okay, so now we have to figure out how to count it. So we're going back every time to add in different measures that are required in order to quantify this high production or this the amount that you're looking for and how quickly. So all of these steps are being put in place, but the company who's taking on this, who says that that's what they want, have to be open to be able to either make their environment conducive for this type of team, or they're not going to be able to have it. Because if you're saying, I'm not willing to make any changes in how I do my business, if I only want to deal with people the way I've dealt with employees all this time, which means everybody's getting paid a flat fee for this period of time and I don't have a clue about what they're doing, then you're not going to get the outcome that he's gotten. He's been very open to making changes. Okay, you need me to figure out how to count this or how to see who's logged in or to create I call it a ripcord that says, if something doesn't go right and there needs to be a quick turnaround for a particular person, or if they're not a good match or whatever, so that they can't make any negative impact. He's willing to make those changes. So it's like, it's more than just creating a team that is able to communicate together. Yes, I make processes. I put the correct people in place. I explain to them how to work with each other, explain to them what is needed, but the company has to be able to give their part, which means if they have to build something, if they have to put something in place, you have to be willing to make the changes also. That's why startups it's a good example in a startup, because a startup is already making changes. So making one change to better create an environment where a gig worker is going to be able to do their best is not a big deal. It's more of a big deal for a big, large corporation that's been around for a long time, because it's harder for them to make these changes because they're already used to a specific pattern.
You mentioned something, Kiera, about you had different people on the team. Obviously, they're not employees, so they're working at different hours. They're getting different pay structures. That must have been a challenge to pull together all these different people from different places and different cultures, in different time zones, and different skill sets. I mean, and Anthony, if I understand, you have a successful app, so something went right somewhere. This is just so amazing. So I'm going to wrap up with this. Anthony, do you have anything else you'd like to share?
Just that, it's really goes back to like the basics of just making sure that you set clear expectations, that you're setting and iterating on the goals and how you get to those, like complete those goals, and you've got your KPIs, and reviewing, and iterating. So at the end of the day, it really goes back to like, those few key things that everybody should keep in mind when building or when working together. And then, on her side, it's really doing the same, taking the education and matriculating it down and setting up people in the right places, and just having her own processes within her organization.
I want to say to listeners, EatOkra is a mobile app. I totally encourage you to download it. And guess what? You don't have to be an African American to use it. If you like food with flavor from different cultures, you might be pleasantly surprised to find what's right around your neighborhood that you may not have even known about, because there's some good food out there. And then, Kiera, is there anything that you would like to share before we wrap up?
I guess my message is to you, Miss Trudy. The whole thing is that every company is going to want something different, but they all want to succeed. And not every company should go about managing the use of different skill sets alone. So you have to ask yourself, if you are a company that wants these great outcomes from a different group of people, that it may be a temporary thing, it may be you're trying to just test out a specific project to see how it goes, or maybe you're just trying to do business a different way, you want to try a different pay structure. You may be able to get these outcomes, but you may not be the person that should manage it. It's possible that hiring out is totally fine. I don't know that Anthony wanted to do this on his own. I don't know that this is some project that he wanted to manage, but having trust in another person to get the outcome that he wanted was another key feature. And that's going to be the same for any business owner. If you want these outcomes, you can have them, but you may not be the person to manage the actual project itself. You might just have to trust someone who is already confident that they can make it happen, and then you can still receive the outcome that you want.
And I'm going to tap onto that because, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of companies are wanting to scale without wanting to have to hire a full-time HR person, hire a full-time team, spend the money on the footprint to put them in an office and provide all the equipment. So what Kiera does is like your remote HR person for gig workers who are going to have their own equipment in their own space. So that is one way, which is one of the things I wanted to share with you, that from the TV side, that this is a way, business owner, that you could potentially quickly scale without having to really go on, figure it all out on your own. So I also want to share with you that Kiera has a book. What is the title of your book, Kiera? Okay, let me just say this. It was actually her guideline for her clients, which I convinced her to turn into a book and make available. So let's put it that way. So have you come up with a title for it yet? It's a boss book, by the way. It's a boss compilation, by the way, guys. What is do you have a name for it yet?
Thank you. So I'm calling it a Millennial Human Capital Manager's Guide to the Gig Economy.
There you go. There you go. And if she makes it available very shortly, there will be a link in the credits for you. So, Anthony, I just want to say thank you so much for being my guest today, guys. EatOkra Inc. is a website, and EatOkra is the mobile app that you can download, which I have, which I am absolutely going to be visiting some restaurants I was not aware of right here in my Tampa neighborhood. And Kiera of Fresh Factory, again, if you're looking to scale or you need a project done and you need a team and you're not really ready to go take on the burden of managing that or figuring it all out, and there you go. Because guess what? Even if you were to go to like a Fiverr or an Upwork or somewhere like that, vetting those people, selecting them, Kiera's already figured all that out for you. All right. Thank you guys so much for being on today. I totally appreciate it, guys. The gig economy is here to stay. And like Anthony, you can scale up, get your projects done. And then we have people like Kiera who are ready to help you do it just like that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having
today.
us.
Yeah.
All right, guys.